share this with somebody because it may help somebody out, especially with this new year coming and tax refunds being right around the corner and Christmas time with all the presents as well. But I'm not a financial advisor. Hi everybody, this is Gabriella where we talk about all things motherhood, motivation, side hustles, and money. Today I'm going to be talking about my finances personally and money. I was asked recently to explain basically how I pay my bills by the year. If you see me looking down, I am just looking at my notes, but I have wanted to do a video on this and I haven't just sat down and done it. This is something that I'm really passionate about. I am going to disclose that this is something that is a little bit like in step 2, 3-ish, I would say, in the Dave Ramsey steps. I don't really follow him by the book, but it's not really a baby step. After baby step number 1, then you can definitely start doing it in step 2 and 3 range. But I personally am a huge advocate for paying bills by the year. This isn't something that was ever taught to me. This is something that I was just like, why am I not doing that? Because the way I like to budget is I know how much I should be making for a year. At least when I started doing this, I wasn't on a fixed income, but I knew my salary job was going to pay me X amount a year. And so I sat down, I drew out how much I make per year based on my salary, and then I wrote out all of my bills. So I'm like, okay, these are my monthly bills. Let me times them by 12 and see how much they're costing me. And then that way I can see if I'm living above or below my means and how much I should realistically be able to save or spend in a month. This is critical. Even if you're not going to actually pay your bills by the month, I highly suggest that you just sit down, write down how much you expect to make in the year, how much your expenses are, and you'll see where your money is going and where you can cut expenses. So let's go ahead and get into it. Why do I pay my bills by the year? I basically kind of explained to you why I started, but why I continue to pay my bills. I've been doing this for 2 years now. Why I continue to pay my bills by the year is because I have never been able to have as much expendable money to me as I have now. And it's amazing because since I pay my bills by the year and I know what months certain bills are coming up, I just am like, okay, this is how much I'm going to have to pay for this bill. When you break it down, let's say for example, my electric bill, or not my electric, well, my electric bill is $85 a month. But I'm going to do easier numbers. My gas bill is about $22 a month, but I'm going to say it's 20 just for easy math. 20 times 12 is $240. $240 is really not that hard to make up, especially if you have a chance to do overtime. So let's say you do one overtime shift a week for a month, and then you make your $240 extra dollars, and you go ahead and pay your gas bill for that month. I think my gas bill actually just recently went up, but we're just going to use those numbers for example. When you start breaking down your bills in terms of months, your bill may literally just be a Christmas present. And since we're going into the holidays and the new year with tax refunds, there's a big chance that you'll be able to get a tax refund that would be able to fund some of your bills, and that's just a huge stepping stone. So now I'm going to talk about what I do to be able to pay my bills for the year. Like I said, I had a salary job when I started this. I also started this around the time that the pandemic started. So I bought my house in August of 2020. And when I bought my house, I was like, okay, I really want to pay my bills by the year because I had gotten a lump sum of money from my escrow because my escrow was over, which was really nice. So when I did my down payment, they owed me an overage and I was like, okay, perfect. So I used some of that money. I also got back money the next year in 2021 from like the stimulus. I believe I got the stimulus checks, and then I also had gotten some extra stimulus because I had my daughter, and then I got a bigger refund because I had my daughter in 2020. So in 2021, I was able to get all of those like rebates and tax refunds. Instead of spending those, and I'm not saying I couldn't have done more with them. I could have started like a different business, or I could have invested them, or maybe done something else. But what I did was I didn't really know where I was going to be at with my job. at the time, and I just wanted to make sure that I was going to be stable and okay for my daughter. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and pay my bills for the year. So that's how I started out. I'm not saying that you have to have a huge bonus to be able to start this out. You don't. You just have to break down your bills and be like, okay, what am I going to tackle this month? Where can I get this little bit of extra money a month? Because if we're breaking down $240 in a month, that's an extra $10 a day. Like, you could Instacart that out, basically. So it's definitely doable. It just depends on what you want to do. Now, I'm going to talk about the upsides to paying my bills. And I feel like it's helped me limit my debt. I'm not completely debt free, but it helps me limit my debt a lot because I pay my monthly credit card bill off all the time. So I will let it hit a statement, and if I need time to pay it off or I just don't feel like emptying my bank account or anything like that, what I do is I'll pay for most stuff on my credit card, and then I will just pay off the whole credit card at the end of the month. This is something else that I could go into more detail about, but I just am able to use a credit card and kind of extend the life that my money is in my bank account, if that makes sense. I've never had so much money expendable to me since I've started paying my bills by the year. And that's because there's not always money coming out and I'm not missing money. I know where my money is. I know where it's supposed to go. I know when the bills are coming. I feel like it's just a lot easier for me to keep up with it versus basically balancing my checkbook monthly. It's just a lot easier for me to do it yearly. It makes a lot more sense to me because I only pay, let's say, one bill every month or one bill every other month. It's really not like a surprise or anything like that. I have a schedule of when I know what bills are coming up, and I've also staggered it. So I started with my smallest bill first and then went down to my bigger bills. So another way that I'm going to talk about how I'm able to do this is I don't have any car payments. I have 2 cars, but both of my cars are paid off. I did work really, really hard to pay off those cars. And that's why I'm saying that this is kind of, if you don't know the Dave Ramsey steps, the first step is saving up $1,000. The second step is working with gazelle-like intensity to be able to pay off your debt. So that includes your cars, your credit cards, and your house even. Personally, I don't really want to pay off my house super, super fast. I do like to pay it ahead, but I'm not right now in a place where I want to pay it off super fast. And I also still use credit cards. Dave Ramsey's not an advocate for that, but I am. So that's why I'm saying I don't follow his teachings exactly. But the fact that I don't have car payments allows me to do this a lot faster and a lot easier and more efficient than if I did, because now I know car payments are anywhere from like $200, like $800 a month, just depending on what kind of car you have. And they don't even have to be fancy cars to be that much because of the interest rates. So I'm sorry, I'm going to go back into the upsides. Even when I have a low balance in my bank account, I still feel very secure in where I am at. So if I want to, and low balance for me may be different than somebody else, but there's a certain number that when my bank account hits that I'm like, ugh, like I don't really like that. But I know that I'm going to be fine because there's not anything that's coming out willy-nilly. I always have like my surplus, and I haven't ever felt like that until I started paying my bills by the year. And this may just be a me thing, but if this is able to help anybody, please like try it out. It wouldn't hurt anything. Even if you pay like smaller bills by the year, it really might help you out, because then that extra money that you would have been maybe blowing or spending, you can use it for propelling yourself forward and just paying a bill by the year. And then once you get into a groove of paying your bills by the year, you'll have more money from your paycheck to spend month to month. But you just have to keep in your mind that you need to pay those bills in a certain month. But if something happens and you lose your job, you always have that to fall back on. So that goes into another upside of mine. It's kind of like an invisible savings account. So it's something that you know that you're secure in that moment, but you can't touch it. You can't go to your electric company and be like, hey, send that back to me. But that actually leads me into a segue of talking about the downsides of doing this. One of my biggest downsides, and this has only happened to me once, I've paid my bills by the year, and in particular, my gas bill, I was like, okay, cool, this is how much it should be. I'm going to go ahead and send it to them. After about 5 months of them just deducting it from my balance, my monthly gas bill, they just sent me a check back. And they're like, oh, you have an overage in your account. Here's a check. And I was like, I don't want this money back. I want you to take it for the year. So then I had to pay the year again earlier than I would have, but I had the money to do it, and I just basically added those 5 months back into it. So keep that in mind, because certain bill companies will send the money back. Another downside is some companies actually don't allow you to pay your bills in advance. Or some companies will actually benefit you if you just pay it monthly. So some companies will have a discount if you have it auto drafted monthly from your account. Some companies will have a discount if you pay it by the year. So that's also something to keep in mind with how you pay your bills, because I definitely keep that in mind. If I'm going to be paying more just by paying it by the year, then I'm just going to let it auto draft out of my account. So that's another disclaimer. I don't pay every single bill by the year, but I do like to pay bills in advance if it's beneficial to me, because like I said, some of them either don't allow me to, or it's just not beneficial because I don't get the same discount. I feel like this is a really good way to eliminate living paycheck to paycheck, because once you get your surplus going of paying your bills by the year, and now you're just having the money come in, you can put more money into savings, and then you can see how far your paycheck can get you, especially if you're like saving up for a car or anything like that. You just have to keep in mind that you will have to pay those bills again. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. I'll go into how I pay my bills in particular in just a moment, but I personally believe that this is a really good way to stop living paycheck to paycheck, because I did live that way for a really long time, and this is what helped me stop. This is also what helped me start building my savings account like so much. I had a goal of saving just like $100 a month for my daughter. At the time, I was like, okay, that's a really reasonable goal. That'll fit pretty well in my budget, and I just want her to be set up for success. I remember when I first started doing this, I was able to double that. I was just able to efficiently use and see my money and where it was going. So then I was able to put more money away for her, because I was like, okay, now I have this extra money and I know I'm going to be good for my bills. So let me just go ahead and stack some more for her. And then the following year I got a bigger tax return. And since my bills were already paid, I went ahead and put more money into her savings. And then we went on vacation. I'm not a financial advisor at all. I should have said that in the beginning. I'm so sorry. But if you've gotten this far, go ahead and hit the like button. Share this with somebody, because it may help somebody out, especially with this new year coming and tax refunds being right around the corner, and Christmas time with all the presents as well. But I'm not a financial advisor. I would also like to go into what bills I pay and when I pay them. So there's two different ways I pay bills. I'll pay bills ahead, and then I continue to pay them monthly. So then I always have that store of however much I paid ahead. Or I will pay that bill in full, and I will not pay them monthly. But I pay them in full by a set amount of time, depending on the range that I can pay it. Then I don't pay anything further than a year, though. So these are the bills that I pay and how I pay them. I pay all of these online, but I pay my mortgage payment 3 months ahead. So my mortgage is always paid 3 months out, and then every single month I continue to pay my mortgage. I personally do this because, let's say I lose my job, I have 3 months that I know my mortgage is paid, that I don't have to worry about dipping into my savings account. My emergency savings account is strictly for emergencies, and then if something, God forbid, happens and I just need spending money, that's what my emergency savings is for. It's not for paying major bills because I already had that emergency kind of set away. The next range that I pay is 6 months, and there's two different bills that I pay that I only pay 6 months ahead. One is my HOA. I pay my HOA bill 6 months ahead. I could pay it by the year, but I just don't see a point in doing that. So I pay it 6 months ahead. It's not going anywhere. And then I pay it monthly on top of that, just like I do my mortgage. Then my car insurance. My car insurance in the state that I live in, which is Nevada, they do 6 months terms. So I pay 6 months ahead and I just pay it in full, and then I wait until the next cycle and I pay it 6 months ahead. The benefit of paying my car insurance 6 months ahead for me is I will just pay my car insurance on a credit card, and then after I pay it on that credit card, I'll get my points back because most credit cards give at least 1%. So I'll pay it with a credit card, get my 1% back, and then I will just pay it off the next statement date. So then it's also building my credit as well. And it gives me basically 2 months to kind of pay my whole insurance. And that just works for me. These are the bills that I pay a year in advance. I pay my homeowner's insurance a year in advance, my gas bill, my phone bill, my pest control services, my internet, and any sort of like annual memberships that I have for my daughter. I love taking her everywhere, so it's a lot cheaper for me to just do an annual membership because I normally take her out of the house at least 3 days a week because I only work. It depends on how much I work, but most of the time I will work when her dad has her. So at least 3 to 4 days of the week I'm able to like go out and be very active with her, or I'll do like night flights or something. Or I'll do audits during half of the day. So I just have a very flexible schedule, so I have a lot of time with her at home, and I like to pay those annual memberships by the year. And then lastly, there are some bills that I do continue to pay monthly, either because I cannot pay them yearly, or the company has not let me pay them ahead, or because it's kind of inconvenient. I could pay them ahead, but I just don't. So the one that I don't pay ahead, but I could if I wanted to like write a check and send it to the billing department, is my electric bill. I could pay that ahead. I just don't. I don't want to write a check. I don't want it to get possibly lost. I don't want anything to get messed up. And I do an equal payment plan, so I just have that auto draft from my account. It's no big deal. It's one bill I know is always going to come out. And then gym memberships for myself, because I could pay my gym membership ahead or by the year, and I have previously done that. But then when I realized like 3 months in, like, okay, I'm not going to this gym anymore, or oh, I want to switch gyms, or maybe I want to do a dance class or an ice skating class, it just makes a lot more sense for me not to pay that a year ahead, because maybe I don't want to stick to those fitness goals. And then life insurance. The life insurance company that I have does not allow me to pay it by the year for some reason. They won't allow me to pay it ahead. They only allow me to pay it every month. So I just continue to pay that monthly. And then I also have like Gettle, which kind of like is a supplement to my homeowner's insurance. They cover my plumbing and my HVAC. And I only pay them monthly because it's a discount for them to auto draft it from my account monthly versus doing it by the year. So they wouldn't offer me the same discount to do it by the year, which really sucked. I'm going to tell you that when you look at your bills, when you write them down for a year, if you see that you're paying like, let's say, I don't know, $1,000 a month, or I'm sorry, $1,000 a year for your phone bill, maybe start looking into some alternative phone companies. There's a lot of phone companies that if you own your phone outright, you can pay for your phone service either ahead or monthly, and it'll be a lot cheaper. Most of the phone companies have a prepaid option. I know AT&T, when I did that one, I do not like AT&T, but I know when I did AT&T, they had like a $60 a month like unlimited plan. They burned me really bad because I was getting the auto draft discount, and then I stopped paying the auto draft and I just paid my bill by the year. Then I got a phone call like 8 months into my year, and they're like, oh, you um, need to pay this month. Or I think I got a text message like, oh, you have to pay this month. And I was like, excuse me, I paid it by the year. They're like, oh no, actually you didn't, because you paid it in full instead of letting it auto draft from your account. We were taking the full amount instead of giving you the discount. Therefore, you owe us money. And I was like, okay, so I'm getting penalized for paying my bill ahead of time. And they're like, well, no, that's not necessarily true, but the discount is only if they auto draft it. I was so fed up with that I was like, you know what, I'm going to find another company. I went to Mint Mobile, and I'll have my link down below because you can get a free trial just to try it out. That way you can get a free SIM card to use and see if the service works in your area and where you normally go. But I absolutely adore Mint Mobile. I've had it for 2 years now. I pay it. I have unlimited service. Sorry. I have unlimited service, and I only paid $360 for the year. $360 for unlimited service for the year. Mind you, I believe that goes up to 20 gigabytes or something. There's like a cap of gigabytes, maybe 20 gigabytes, maybe 30. I'm not exactly sure. And then after that, it's throttled. But you can always buy more. And I've only ever gone over my data usage 3 times. So, and it was like 3 days before the time period that I was supposed to use. Mind you, I use my phone a lot, and I have to use my phone to do field work, and I have to use data, I have to use GPS, so I use a lot of data. But that's something to definitely keep in mind. Mint Mobile will cut your phone bill like very, very low. Pay off your phone as soon as possible. If you still have a phone payment, take your phone, switch it to Mint Mobile. That's one of my biggest things. Phone bills are ridiculous. And also, I'm not going to tell you not to buy the newest phone, but I always buy refurbished phones, and I've been doing that since about 2017. Since I bought refurbished phones, 1, they've always worked really well, and 2, it's never cost me more than $500, and they're maybe a year old. I might get the same model just a little bit after it comes out, and it's already like offering refurbished phones of the model that I like, and then I buy it outright for like $500 or less. I've never spent more than $500 on a phone. Right now I have a Note 20 Plus, I believe. And it's working fine, so I don't plan on upgrading it. But when I do, I don't plan on buying a brand new phone. I might get a Note 22 or whatever is a year older model, and then I will just pay that off, and it'll still be with Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile, I believe, also does offer phones that you can pay monthly if you want to do that. I will never suggest paying monthly for a phone. I just don't understand making payments on phone, but that's me personally. So that's how I pay my bills by the year. Let me know what you think. Do you think this is realistic? Do you think this is too far gone? I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Please share this with someone if you think it would be helpful. I think that this helped me so much as far as reining in my finances and finally being in control of where my money is going, and just understanding that I can save so much more of my income because I see that chunk of money. Like when I write everything down, I'm like, this is my annual income, and this is how much my bills are annually. This is how much money I should be able to save after we take out a reasonable amount of spending money and you budget properly. I highly recommend budgeting by the year, paying bills by the year, if not just a little bit further in advance, to kind of have an invisible savings account and padding. So thanks again for watching. This is Gabriella with the Muscle Club. Have a good night.